How are you? Good, thanks. Yes, welcome to day 4 of the budget hearing. For we have a quorum, please, for Wednesday, October 11th. Please stand for the pledge. Oh, I thought you said. All right, let's yeah, do roll call, please.
Councilwoman Resonetti. Councilwoman Riley. Councilmember Friedman.
Present.
Councilman Burns is absent. Councilman Strawn is absent. Councilman Scanlon
Present.
and President Scringy.
Present.
That's 5 here, 2 absent, Burns and Strawn.
All right, let's get into the finance department. With Chuck and Lori. Open pages 18, 19, 24, 46, 98, 71, 76, and 77, 218, and 219. Whenever you're ready, guys.
Okay. The first thing before we get started on this, I just handed out the exemption impact report that you asked Terry to add some different towns on. So you just want to make sure I completed that. The finance budget for 2024 is actually a reduced amount of about $16,000 from 23 to 24. Really nothing large there, but if you have any questions on those 2 pages.
Questions on page 18 and 19, please. Yes, Councilmember Friedman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. Hello, Chuck. Hello, Lori. Nice to see you. I noticed that the temporary services line has decreased significantly from 2022 to 2023 to 2024. Can you tell us a little more about that, please?
Sure. I had a long-term employee that was here for probably 30+ years that retired, and I brought in 2 new people, and I don't believe the assistance is going to be needed as much going forward.
Okay. Great, thank you. Sorry, taking notes here. Okay. And oh, the ARPA line trips me up every time. Okay, and then on page 19, the dues and memberships line, I noticed that this is the budget that's proposed is less than half of what we adjusted the budget to in 2023.
If you look at the 23 adopted budget, it's the same. During this year, we moved money to send a new purchasing director to some special courses up in Albany to learn some additional things. I don't anticipate that going forward.
Okay, sorry, you said that was to send a new person up to
We
Albany?
had a new purchasing person that came in 22. In 23, we sent her to a training course up in Albany.
Okay, and that's not going to be necessary going forward?
Should not be, to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Chuck, let's move on to page 14, please, or 24, okay.
Page 24 is tax, acquired properties and demolitions. Whatever demolitions we have in the CDBG budget. Taxes and purchase of real property, I'm budgeting the same amount. Although you'll see that we spent more than that this year. There's less and less possibilities with the new foreclosure laws and what the county can do. So it's less likely that we can foreclose on as many properties as we have in the past.
Any questions on page 24? All right, Chuck, let's move on to page 46, please.
46 is the unallocated insurance. This is the portion of the general fund for insurance to the M fund related to liability. As I stated, when we're going through the insurance fund, that the rates on all insurances have increased 20 to 25%. That's the majority of this increase here.
Question on page 46 or 24, I'm sorry. No, 46, we're on, never mind. Question on page 46. Seeing none. All right, Chuck, move to 98, please.
Page 98 is the electricity cost for the building we own on Charles Street.
Questions on page 96. All right, Chuck, go to page 71, please.
Councilman Scanlon, can we combine 71, 76, and 77? They're all the same.
Yep, yep.
Basically, these are ARPA lines that we originally put money in and it's spent money at some point. I believe it's all gone. And we haven't budgeted any new money for those three accounts. The first one is for mental health. The second one was for safety net. Was for daycare that we gave some money to the YWCA. And the third one was two safety net programs, one for Vines and one for community food pantry. And we haven't budgeted any money in 24 for that.
Questions on page 71, 76, and 77. Councilmember Riley, please.
Thank you, Council Chair, Committee Chair. Hi, Chuck and Lori. How are you guys? So for the mental health programs, we see that we have 200,000 allocated from the ARPA funds, and we discussed supporting several programs, but I don't see any money expended to this date. Do you have an update for us?
I believe, and I'll have Lori check it up. I believe all that money has been spent in 22. Actually, yeah, in 22, I think it was all spent. Maybe not.
Okay.
But no, it doesn't look that way.
Mm-mm. I don't remember. And once you find it, if it was expended, can you remind me what agency? Oh, nothing's been spent, so
Nothing's been
it's still
spent.
remaining in
Yes.
that line.
Yes, correct.
Right. Thank you.
Other questions on page 71, 76, and 77. Councilmember Freeman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. So I actually have a follow-up question. Since it's remaining in this line, would it then roll over? And if so, would it need to be noted in the 2024 budget?
What we'll do with this one, because it's an ARPA line and what's not spent and what's not encumbered, like assigned to somebody yet, we will put a blanket PO in to roll it over, so it won't go away.
Okay. Yeah,
Other questions on 71,
thank you.
76, and 77? See none, Chuck, let's move to page 218, 219, please.
To 18 underneath the finance department. The Maravito Stadium facility improvements of 30,000. That number usually varies between 30,000 and 60,000, depending on what our operation expected maintenance cost is on that. This year it's 30,000. And the Bureau interest, we need to change the title of that to Water Street Parking Garage Interest.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion on page 218 in the finance department's portion of the capital budget to change the title of the line Bureau interest under finance department to Water Street Parking Garage Interest.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Yes, Councilmember Freeman.
I'm sorry, I have a question about that. So, okay, could you help me understand why we have a dedicated line for that when we're not exactly sure what the plans are?
When we say we're not sure what the plans are that we presented a bond ordinance for you guys to vote on Wednesday or next Wednesday. If that gets approved, we have to have the interest in the budget to pay for it.
Okay,
If
so
the-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If that does not get approved, then this money will not get spent.
I
By putting
see.
it to Water Street Parking Garage, you're putting it to a specific item.
So this is contingent on that bond ordinance
Correct.
passing. Okay, and so then if it doesn't, it'll get reallocated to
Yes.
something else? Okay. All right, thank you.
You again, Chair. Okay, so since we've now renamed this line, where is the line then that will support Bureau and Maravito Stadium? We won't have one?
No, we do, when you approve that bond ordinance, if
Then
you
we
do
have
it,
to add one.
yes. But it won't be part of this budget. It will be in the 23 budget. And since it's a capital item, it will carry forward.
But it should have carried forward from
Well,
2021
Yes,
when it was
well, we
originally.
still had that line, I think, right? It's, I think it's underneath.
It's someplace else? Is that what?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not.
We don't have all the capital projects in the budget that
Oh,
we've been approved.
but it should be, right? Since it's carrying on and it's an existing
If-
line.
If you go to the monthly reports that we send out,
Mhm.
there should be a capital section there that has all that in there.
Okay. So this Bureau interest, though, would not reflect those bonds that are existing.
Correct. That's going to be in another line item we go through tonight,
Okay.
shortly.
Okay. So in terms of nomenclature, though, so that everyone's on the same page, since we renamed it to Water Street, are we then going to subsequently rename each line to reflect the subgroup for which the bond is run through?
I
No.
put this here just so I was very transparent
Okay.
of what I was doing here.
So this is the one time you'll be
Well,
transparent.
that won't say. If you go see all the other interest lines, it's for all the bands, but in this case, I didn't want to bury it in there because if we do not pass that bond ordinance, this should not be in like a bond or a band item interest account.
Okay.
But if we do pass it, I need the money there to pay for it.
Okay. But if we pass it, it's still this year's budget.
It's next year. This,
Well,
right,
we're working on next year, but we're
Right.
passing it for
this
year.
200,000 will be due next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there more questions on this? Councilmember Friedman or Councilmember Riley or anyone else? Okay, all right, so let's try this again. So Jill, would you make the motion again, please?
Like Chair Scanlon, we got to go to page 219.
Okay,
There's a line over there for fiscal agent fees. $100,000 with 25,000 going to the water fund, 40,000 to the sewer fund, 10,000 for parking ramps and $25,000 for general fund.
let's go back and all right, Chuck, so let's all right, so let's go back to page 218. We're gonna, Joe, would you make that amendment again, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion on page 218 under the Finance Department and the Capital Plan to change the line title of Bureau interest to the title Water Street Parking Garage interest.
So can I have it said, seconded by Councilman Strawn, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, Chuck, continue with page 219. Thank you.
Page 219 is the finance department fiscal agent fees of $100,000 to be broken out, 25,000 to the water fund, 40,000 to the sewer fund, 10,000 to the parking ramps and 25,000 for the general fund.
Question on page 219, please.
Where are we going to?
We're done with that. If there's no questions, we're done with this segment of it.
Just the fiscal agent fees,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, on
Yep.
219.
So I just asked for questions on page 219. Anyone have questions on page 219?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to move pages 18, 19, 24, 46, 71, 76, 77, 98, 218 as amended and 219.
Can I have a second, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Lori, let's move to page 44, 45, 219 and 33, please.
Okay, 44 and 45 is the IT department. The major changes.
Did say you said no major changes? Lori?
Okay, the major changes in it is changing one title from a digital technician to a senior digital technician. He's going to take on more responsibilities in dealing with vendors. There's increased responsibilities due to the discovery law, more video that we need to provide to the DA's office on a daily basis from fleet cameras, body cameras, et cetera. The other increases are in technical services for outside consulting for projects and the hardware software maintenance line. The maintenance cost for every piece of software goes up every year and we just need to keep current with it. So those are the changes in the IT department.
Questions on page 44 and 45? Councilmember Freeman?
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. There was, let's see, there was a line that was zeroed out that I was curious about under the general operating supplies. The toner for office printers. I'm just curious. That was,
I combined everything to small to one line. I'm trying to make it easier
Okay.
for the future. So it's $1,500 and tried to get rid of some of the little tiny lines there.
right. Okay.
Okay.
And I think that the info tech specialist, if I remember correctly, was also unfunded last year as well.
It was, we created the assistant IT manager position.
Right.
Has not passed his test yet. Once he passes the test, the job can go away.
Okay.
The unfunded one will go away.
All right.
The test
Gotcha.
hasn't come up yet. It's in December.
Okay. Oh, the other line that was zeroed out was the printing line.
We don't need, we only buy envelopes. We don't need any next year, so we zeroed it out.
Okay. And we opened page 45?
Yep.
Okay. Um. Okay, there was, under technical services line, the outside consulting line went up significantly. Less-
I plan on retiring next year and they are going to need some assistance from outside consultants to get over the transition.
Okay. Aw, that's you go. Um, let me see. Okay, also. Okay, in the hardware software maintenance, I noticed that the fire department line was,
I combined police and fire into public safety because some of the software packages are shared.
okay,
It's hard to split it out. And yes, the cost did increase over the total line. All the vendors increased the maintenance costs on software. It's something
Okay.
we have no control over.
okay. And the last line that was also zeroed out was the travel and training.
I anticipate they're going to be very busy next year and they won't have time to go for training.
Okay, but you could argue that that might be the year that they need the most training.
Well, then they can transfer the money.
Okay, all right. Interesting. Okay, so the consulting, I guess the training would come. I know consulting and training are not the same.
Not the
but-
same, but if they don't need the consulting, they can transfer it to training.
Okay. I think. All right. Okay, those are all my questions for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 44 and 45? Councilmember Riley, please.
You again, Chair. Hello again, Lori.
Hi.
Last time we were together, we talked about some of the infrastructure and strengthening our infrastructure, our technical services to prevent hacking and the backup. And we paid something similar for another consultant to assess.
And
And
that-
we said we were going to continue. So now you're saying this consulting fee is for, oh, it's a combination.
It will be a combination.
Okay,
Okay?
okay, that, because we needed that
Yes.
ongoing.
And that is ongoing.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you for
You're-
clarifying.
Yep, you're welcome.
Other questions on page 44 and 45? All right, let's move to 219, please.
219,
Sorry, you have another question? I'm sorry.
Well, remember we were supposed to get a report from that person?
they have not completed it yet. They're doing an entire assessment of it.
And do they have an estimated time
I will check on that.
before you retire, of course?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions on page 44 and 45? See none, Lori, let's move to page 219, please.
219, the information technology section. This is the funds that I request to replace and upgrade hardware. There's 80,000 for citywide hardware, security, 6,000 for a plotter for planning and 10,000 for hardware for the police department. We try to only budget for what we need every year.
Questions on page 219? Councilmember Friedman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. Can you tell us more specifics about what hardware we're anticipating?
We replace switches and networking gear as needed. We upgrade at least one server every year. We upgrade printers, multifunction printers in offices, and we budget for all the computers and desktops. So we try to keep a cycle going that we're not buying new computers once every 5 years, but upgrading certain offices in a rotation.
Okay, so just very
Various.
miscellaneous. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on page 219? Councilmember Riley, please.
Yes, thank you again, Chair. So just for clarification, where do we list the fire department's hardware?
It would be here if we needed money. We had money left over this year, so we didn't add any for next year. We have
Oh.
enough to get through next year.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Other question on page 219? All right, let's move to page 33, please.
Page 33 is our records management department. This is where we pay for the offsite storage for all of our records, and we pay for shredding of documents that are eligible to be shredded pursuant to records retention.
Questions on page 33? All right, Lori, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no questions, Mr. Chairman, make a motion to move pages 33, 44, 45, and the IT capital improvement section of page 219.
Seconded by Councilman Strawn. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Chuck, I don't believe we held any pages back, did we?
Say that again?
I don't believe you're up now with callback pages. We didn't.
Well, they're not
hold any
callback pages. Some of them are. Okay, there are no callback pages. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I thought, yep. Let's move on here. So Chuck, you're up, let's open pages 113, 114, 6, 125, 218, 219, 206, 207, 116, 117, 104 through 112, 7 through 14, and 48.
So on page 113 is a list of all the different bonds that we have, the principal and interest payments. The top part is all the principal payments, and it tells you when they were issued, and first one was issued in 2019. It was a refunding of the 2012 bond. And that's go right down, see those. The big change between 23 and 24 is we bonded for some large items back in April, the largest of them being the new fire station.
Which is on page 113. All right, Chuck, let's move on to page 114, please. Hold on.
114,
Councilman Freeman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. So the thing that jumps out at me, and I don't know if there's anything that we can do about this,
Yes.
but the bond for 2023, the interest is like 3 times almost as much as the bond itself. Is there anything that can be
not the bond itself, it's the principal thing.
the print, right?
Okay, the bond itself, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, to say that it was like $13 million.
Right.
Yes. Okay, that's the interest on that 13 million.
Okay,
And
that's
it's all due to
better.
the cause of interest rate increase.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Just so everyone's clear too, as those bonds mature, as they say that this is altogether like an average of 20-year bond, each year the principal will increase and share interest.
Any other questions on page 113? All right, Chuck, let's move to 114, please.
114 is our bond anticipation notes, otherwise known as bands. Those are a 1-year renewable bonds. The big increase here is due to interest rates of $900,000 from last year's $314,000. The amount of the band is very similar in nature. There is, and I don't have the number right here in front of me, a large, I'm going to say probably 250 to 300,000 of that is already set aside in a reserve to pay that down. But this is what I have to pay, and then from a cash standpoint, I have to then put away.
Councilmember Riley, please.
You Chair Scanlon. Okay, so I'm gonna add, it's in reserve where? In our fund balance? Where?
Yes, it's in our fund balance. Correct.
So that money has been earmarked to pay down the band.
It's called premium on obligations. When someone buys one of our bonds, they can either just say it's going to be a straight interest rate, or they could charge a higher interest rate, but give us money up front to let us use that cash for a year. but we're required by state law to take that money and pay it back towards the payment of this.
But it's a range. We don't have, you said 250 to 350. So there is no exact number.
I can send you the exact.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
off the top of my
Okay.
head.
And so how many of these? It's just one lump sum from this
Yes.
regarding, okay, but each time we initiate a new ban, that may be part of the,
And sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. Show you what I mean. No, I don't want to be paid.
okay, while you're looking though, does that, so their upfront cash, I will say just deposit as part of the ban secures our repayment process? What, how does that benefit us?
How it benefits us in this environment,
Mhm.
we're able to invest that. Interest in that.
Okay. And so again, we would negotiate that depending on the total ban we're pursuing.
Everybody. I bids every year from different participants, and we look at that to say, what is the net interest rate of the city? And we'll take the lowest one. If it includes a premium and obligation, that's part of the calculation. So if you go to page 11, there's a line 42,710, it's premium obligations. This was an odd year for this, but we got premiums on both a bond and a ban. And that was like $663,000.
And those were newly initiated bans and bonds
Yes.
only. So we're
Yes.
not looking at money from the 2014.
No, you're looking just the new ones in 2023.
Okay.
And if you were to turn to page 5, you will see that we're using $223,762 of those premium obligations to go towards that $900,000 payments.
Oh.
Other questions on page 114? All right. Move to page 6, please.
Page of all the debt. When they're required to be paid and when they expire.
Any questions on page 6? All right, Chuck, let's move to page 115, please.
Page 115, our interfund transfer funds that self-sustaining at this point, the parking ramp fund. It's pretty. 2025. The second line item are transfers for the water fund, and sewer fund capital items. So the water fund and sewer fund, the 13,000 and 5,000 are basically retention stipends that we approve for the Teamsters Union. And the 115,000 is capital items that was approved in the sewer fund.
Questions on page 115? Councilmember Friedman.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. Where did the refuse fund go?
The refuse fund was combined into the general.
Okay,
You'll see that underneath A,
Other questions on page 250 or 115, please? All right, Chuck, let's go to page 218 and 219, please.
Wait. It's
Mr. Chairman, for pages 218 and 219, I'll make a motion that we move both of those pages forward in their entirety as amended.
And the second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, Chuck, let's move on, please. 206, 207.
two oh six, 207 is basically taking what we've done on page 218 and 219 and putting it into account numbers that are gonna show up in the capital fund. Page 206 is good as is. Actually, it isn't. Excuse me, I missed this afternoon when I went through it with Lori. We're gonna have to do the transfer to Bureau interest to the transfer to Water Street parking interest. That's about halfway down the page, that 200,000. About halfway down the page, we probably 20 minutes ago, we checked the Bureau interest,
That title has to
That
be
title, yeah.
changed, yeah,
no number, just the type.
right. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion in the general fund to change the transfer line with $200,000 with the title from Bureau interest to Water Street parking garage interest.
Have a second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, Chuck, move on, please.
On page 206.
Yep. Go ahead, Councilman Freeman.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. Under, let's see, under the general fund, I noticed that the carousel is not there anymore from last year.
The carousel line
Carousel improvement.
is gone from,
Yeah. I wonder if we like out. Oh,
okay, yeah. So if you look on A7110, we set up a carousel maintenance line every year to put in there instead of a capital line.
I'm sorry, where is that?
Should be A7110. Line one.
I'm not confused. What?
Page 84. Seven, 7110, 54, 121, carousel maintenance, 20,000.
Oh, I see. Yes. Thank you. Sorry, I did make a note of that in here. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chuck, we're on to, I believe, 207.
Middle section where H 44081 ARPA funds. We got to cross out the fire rescue. And H 7110.525920 dot five or F 0015, and that's AED trainer for 3,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Seven one zero 525 920 dot F 0015, and it's for an AED trainer. And it's for 3,000. That's what you approved earlier in the budget process with
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Chuck, these are all in the ARPA fund section, correct? Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on page 207 in the ARPA funds section to update the title of ARPA funds instead of ARPA FUDs. I oppose.
Joe, can you make the motion?
No, that's a legitimate motion. It's.
No, I understand that, but make the real motion about crossing out the fire.
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, if you
Okay.
could, please.
Oh, okay. I thought that would. All right, Mr. Chairman, page 207 in the ARPA fund section, I make a motion to remove line H3410.52596.50015 rescue boat for $40,000.
Give a second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Joe, can you make the motion to change the dollar amount on the
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on pages 207, which aggregate that same $40,000 in the ARPA section to add two new lines, one being H5110.54130.500 F0015 DPW construction materials for $37,000. And then add a second line, H7110.525.920.F0015 AED trainers for $3,000.
Give a second on it, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, check. Let's move to 10. Sure. Councilman Burns.
Yeah, Chuck, when it's listed on ARPA funds, is this the former ARPA funds or is this the actual ARPA? You know,
These are actual.
this is the actual ARPA funds. Okay.
Councilmember Friedman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. So similar to Councilman Burns's question, are these? I know the rescue boat was elsewhere, but are these? Right, are these listed elsewhere in the budget, or these are only, this is only for the,
No, this is just like a formality of where we're gonna put them in the budget, like when we set up the H lines.
okay. So these have not yet been allocated outside of this section?
Yes, well, they're part of, if you go to 117, they're part of that page, which we have not. And they're also part of the pages 218
Okay.
and 219 when we went through every single department individually.
Right, okay, so these are, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, so these are proposed allocations for next year. These have not yet been allocated through like an RL or something like that?
Correct.
Okay, so,
They're being allocated through the budgeting process.
right. Okay, so there's. Okay, there's a lot here that, again, my qualm. At the very least, I am consistent. I don't understand how these are appropriate for ARPA. Like, these just seem like maintenance or like things that I think should be elsewhere,
They're all,
like equipment and,
they're all capital purchases in this case.
right. And how are they related to COVID relief?
It's within the ARPA guidelines that we're spending this money.
Okay, the ones that are like, oh, feel free to spend it on anything. Okay, did we vote on 207 as a whole?
You voted on 218 and 219.
Okay, not 207. Okay, all right, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Burns.
So these ARPA funds, there will be no RL necessary for council to approve each one of these, or is this now the approval? Is this now the approval?
What we're doing, when you do your motion to approve this budget at a council meeting, it will be listed in there.
So no
It's
RL.
part of that, it's part of, no RL, but it'll be part of the budget ordinance that you guys will be getting outlining.
Councilmember Riley, please.
Thank you again, Chair Scanlon. Now, my concern, similar to my colleagues, we've asked for a breakdown. The ARPA was allocated throughout this budget that would not require a separate RL. I don't recall these, and you gave it to us on paper. Do you remember you said some of this money is coming out of the ARPA line because we wanted to see what was already kind of pre-planned within this budget?
The spreadsheet. that we
Yes.
normally-
Do you remember that?
Yes.
I don't recall.
This- No, this wouldn't have been in there because you guys haven't approved it.
Right, but we asked for what was pending also. So you, on that spreadsheet, it was only things that we voted on and approved.
Yeah.
And not things that were earmarked in this budget.
Correct.
So I was missing under a different understanding because I really wanted to know where we had pre-assigned ARPA funding that did not flow through the regular process through an RL, a review, a budget, a discussion. That's what I wanted to know, because as we mentioned at the beginning of this budget process, ARPA money would be used in various lines that would be tied into the overall budget approval process, which is a little bit different. And so, do we have a spreadsheet? It's a little late now, that outlines all of the expenditures that were predetermined without a council review for use of ARPA funds?
The answer here. Angela, I'm trying to do this off the top of my head here. Okay, if you. 117, you see 39,875.
Mhm.
That's one of the items. I think there's another line that's gonna consolidate everything for you.
This would then change the last Excel we have with expended ARPA funds and proposed expenditures of ARPA funds. Because we want to know, again, what had been earmarked, what had been put aside, because remember, we talked about some of the contracts that we knew were coming and,
Well, let me
Yeah,
direct
okay.
you to, I got the answer for you.
Okay.
Okay, if you go to page 12 and 13,
Mhm.
the total amount of ARPA money being used in this budget is $1,113,828. Some of this is stuff that you've approved in the past. Example being, if you go to page 13, you'll see 80,000 for a code prosecutor, 3 code inspectors, 3 firefighters, 2 laborers for the parks. Those were all funds that were approved at, I think, in a legislative RL.
Which would have been on that spreadsheet though.
Yes.
So that's,
Well, no, yes, it would. Yes.
yes, it was on the spreadsheet.
Yes.
So again, the things that were proposed and wrapped into this budget, which we thought were on the spreadsheet, are not in detail. Not at this level of detail. So we would be able to compare and contrast. But at the end of the day, we're expending 1.13 million. And without that updated spreadsheet, we really don't know how much remains.
I can send that to you.
Before we vote?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions on, 216 and 217? Where am I here? 206, 207, I'm sorry. All right, Chuck. Let's move on to 116, 117, please.
116, 117. 218 and 18.
Questions on page 116 and 117.
Well, actually, if you're in. Yeah, I make a motion there on page 116 to change the Bureau interest to the Water Creek Parking Garage interest.
Water Street parking garage interest.
You have a second, please?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, Chuck, 104, please. 117, I'm sorry.
And being used out of 5. 104, excuse me, okay. $104 is the retirement for not for ERS, which is non-fire and police retirement. That number is up substantially. It's due to wages and the new rates that the retirement system's asking for. It's quite an increase. I will tell you that when I get the final budget, I've seen preliminary numbers of what we owe in December. I'm gonna have to I think I over budgeted in police and fire and under budgeted on the ERS. So I'll be coming down for 23, but this one reflects what you're gonna see in that RL.
Questions on page 104, please. See, now Chuck, let's move on to page 105, please.
105 is the police and retirement number based off of estimates that I received on wages and the rates.
Questions on page 105? 106, Chuck, please.
106 is social security. The city's responsible. The wages that we've approved in the budget.
Question on page 106. Councilmember Friedman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. Sorry, okay, sorry, I don't have a question.
You do that? Okay, all right. Chuck, 107, please.
107 is workers' compensation, based off of our wages and the workers' comp rates.
Anyone have questions on page 107?
Most of that increase is due to bringing over the refuse labor here.
Page 108, please.
108 is unemployment insurance. It's the best estimate. We don't get too many claims usually. Hopefully they're going down.
Question on page 108. 109, please, Chuck.
109 is the disability insurance, that certain employees can get if they go on disability.
What's on 109? Yes, Councilmember Friedman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. I'm sorry. I decided that I do have a question on page 106.
On which one?
106. Again, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. I'm looking at the ARPA Social Security line. So this, okay, sorry, I'm trying to organize my thoughts. So this means that did we fund this through an RL or through the budgeting process previously? Do you know?
Not for this. This is based off of the wages that we're budgeting for next year, with using ARPA, such as the code enforcement individuals and things like that.
Oh,
This is their share of social security.
okay. Thank you. That,
Things that I can break out easy, I do. Things that are difficult, it stays in the general fund. We're not using ARPA money.
okay, so these are contingent on us funding those positions through ARPA.
Right.
And then it, like, let's say if we struck all of those, then all of these then would zero out.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, Chuck, let's go to page 110, please.
Page 110 is health insurance. There is a big change here. I thought it was important for everybody to understand the cost of health insurance for last year. If you look underneath the 23 adopted budget, it was $8.4 million. This year, that number is 7.76. But I've added another line down below. It's the cost that we incur for retirees. So we're basically estimating to pay 1.2 million for retirees' health insurance next year in the general fund. There's some in the water fund, there's some in the sewer fund. This is the big chunk of it, but I thought it was important to start breaking that out so everybody's aware how that is. On a second note, our health insurance usage this year has been phenomenal, much higher than normal. In case you hear when we get the final numbers, the rates are going to go up substantially next year for the city and the rates for the employees.
What's on page 110? Councilmember Friedman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. So this new health insurance retirees line, that's taking the over 65 Medicare and retiree under 65 lines and moving them and further separating them.
Yes, they
Okay,
used to be combined in the other line up above.
right. Okay, and those two are now zeroed out
Yep.
above. Right.
Yep.
Okay, that math makes sense. So there were some, so a lot of these are out of our control. Is that, am I correct in assuming that?
For the most part, a lot of it is out of our control. Like we
Okay.
can't control who gets sick and who doesn't, who buys pharmaceuticals and who doesn't. The cost of those pharmaceuticals, we don't really control. We do negotiate with Excelis every year on the fee they charge us for administrative fees. Okay, this year, one of our costs is a stop loss charge. Okay, where we have a stop loss, and I'm throwing out a number. It's a little more complicated than this, but it's 250,000. Once somebody hits a $250,000 charge for the year, then another company picks up the remaining balance. Okay, so we're protected that if someone goes and has $1 million claim, we're only on the hook for 250,000. Okay. The flip side to it, it's expensive. And this year, I believe we have 3 people over that number, maybe 4. So trying to negotiate a stop loss that's going to benefit us is not going to be fun.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for explaining that. I mean, there are some like, so I know you just mentioned that we negotiate the administrative costs. There's some like, for example, the vision dental admin line, that went up significantly since last year. That tripled. And the Excelis admin also went up like 25%.
I don't have last year's number, but I think the vision dental last year was probably about 50,000.
The vision dental admin was 20,000 last year. I have the 2023 budget if you would like to.
No, that's all right.
Okay,
I just know the number's usually about 50,000, so I must
Yeah.
have put in a wrong number last year.
oh. Yeah, because some of these are, again, I know everything is more expensive now. But yeah, some of these have been notably increased.
And part of it is that some of it goes down below too, like some of the claims and stuff have changed.
Uh-huh.
And some of them go to the water sewer fund depending on what that formula is. And actually, part of it being also due to bringing over the refuse fund.
Okay.
So we're supposed to start our meeting at 6 o'clock, but I'd like to finish this up. We have a couple items left here. We can power through this and get this done. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
we noted on the public notice that would either be 6 PM or after the budget reviewing, whichever is later. So we're good.
thanks. So Chuck, tell us about page 111, please.
Page 111 is money we make supplemental payments to disabled firefighters. This is pretty much a fixed number that we're contracted to pay.
Question on page 111? Yeah, Councilmember Riley, please.
Thank you, Chair Scanlon. I was actually waiting for you to ask for further questions on 110. I
Oh,
cannot.
sure, yeah, absolutely.
wanna go back.
Sure, sure.
I know we had a consultant that we hired to review the insurance rates premiums about a year or two ago to look at what was best for the city. Do you recall?
We hired a broker, NFP.
Yes. Have we asked for his or their official statement regarding the charges we're seeing, how it compares? Is it worthwhile to start pursuing another system by chance for our insurance?
It's a 360-day process. I mean, we do it every day. I'm on there talking to Excelis about different things. I could tell you that if we went out and quoted somebody else besides Excelis,
Mhm.
they would probably come in less for 1 year
And then
then
it'll go up again
substantially.
based upon our utilization.
It's not only our utilization, but it's also the agreements that Excelis has with our local
Our
hospitals.
networks.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Our agreement with Excelis, if someone goes to New York City, isn't quite as good as maybe somebody else.
Oh,
but most of our claims
absolutely.
come through Lords and UHS and Guthrie, and they have great payment terms with those firms which help us.
Okay, so
Um,
the person we contracted is an ongoing contract to continuously review. You said every day he reviews.
I'm on the phone like every day with them, working on something.
Okay,
Whether an employee calls and has a problem. Example, one of the things that we've gone through is the Aetna plan, the over 65. A couple years ago, it was $453 a month. We got that down to 125, I think, back in 20 or 21. I think it was 2020. Now it's up to 150, and next year it's going up to, I believe, 185. I'd have to look and see if I,
and again,
but no,
that's happening across the country.
yes.
And where do we pay for the broker service?
Excuse me,
Where do we see the fees for that service
we
on
don't,
these?
we don't pay him. He gets a commission. There's a standard commission for insurance brokers that Excelis and Aetna pay.
Will then pay? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
All right, let's, questions on page 111, please. All right, Chuck, let's move on to page 112, please.
$112 is other employee benefits. This is where we keep track of a few things, but also we have $982,000 in unfilled positions, that meaning that we're not gonna fill these positions until we get this money back throughout the year. And I will say the majority of it, it's probably tied back to the police department. In that I think they have 28 openings right now, and maybe more than that, last I know. And depending on how many we hired, I mean, when there's enough to hire 28, I don't believe that's gonna be the case. I think we're probably closer to hiring 12 to 15. Is what we'll probably end up getting qualified candidates for. That's where most of that money will come back out.
Questions on page 112? Councilmember Freeman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. I noticed that the 2024 management pool line is new. Can you explain what that is, please?
The 24 management pool is what?
It's, I think that's a new line. I don't think that was yeah, that was not in the 2023 budget. Can you
It was
explain what?
probably not mentioned in the details that it is here.
Okay, well, because,
We-
so,
Because if we don't have a signed, all the signed contracts, we don't know what that pool number is. Since we
Okay.
have all contracts signed, we know what that number is.
I see.
It's based off of all the labor contracts and raises for that year. This one in particular, we reduced it by 10,000, I believe. So it could have been 49,000, but in cutting the budget, we cut 10,000 out of it.
Yeah. Well, no, the line is not even mentioned. The
Right.
unfilled positions, like sub line is mentioned, but the management pool line is
And
not
we-
mentioned.
Understand, we didn't have a Teamsters contract last year when we did the budget, so we didn't know what that number was gonna be.
I see, okay. All right, thank you.
All right, questions on page 112? All right, check. Let's move to 7 through 14, please.
7 through 14 is basically a laundry list of our revenue and where it comes from for the city. I'll pick out a couple big items for you. The sales tax numbers up substantially from 14.5 to 16 million. As you can see in 22, we ended up with 15.8. This year, we're at 8.1 after 2 quarters. I try to be conservative on these numbers. Interest and earnings, I budgeted 190,000 last year. This year I'm budgeting 1.1 because the interest that we collected now is over 1.2 million. I'll let you go through it. If
So,
you have any questions on,
Yeah, any questions on page 7 through 14? Take your time, look through it. If you have any questions, certainly ask. All right, time's up. Sorry, I didn't say that. Councilmember Friedman.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. Okay, I'm looking at the, on page 7, the pilots. There's a few that are zeroed out from last year. Boscov's 20 Holly Street, and there's another one, I think.
20 Holly Street is no longer a pilot.
Okay. So that ended
And it,
this, did that end this year?
it's into next year's budget. They're gonna pay their normal tax rate.
Oh, that's exciting.
Same with 2 Port Street, I believe,
Don't
too.
get too excited about it. It probably means they want to get out of the pilot because the pilot says they can't sue to change their assessed value. They're probably going to sue to change their assessed.
Oh,
Yeah.
aw,
Don't get too excited about it.
dang.
You think they're assessed too much? Is that what?
That's
They
too much.
think they are,
So they get
yeah.
out of the pilot so they can get their assessment changed.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And I say this about Pascas. As the mayor's I believe mentioned multiple times that he's in negotiation with Bosco, creating a long lease agreement,
Right.
and there'll be a different payment option probably in that agreement.
Right, or did I make that up?
For Boscov,
We did,
Councilwoman,
right?
you're probably thinking of the 1-year extension thing the last time. we did it,
Right.
But yeah,
Oh, I see. So the 1-year extension,
Has not
expired.
been, it's expired, it's not, and we're working on a long-term lease with them
okay,
on the building.
yes, that is what I was thinking of. Okay, I think, was that the only other one that was? Zeroed out, or there was one that, there was another one that decreased, the, family enrichment, 29 Virgil, the last one, that decreased.
What was it last
Right.
year? It couldn't have
Last
been-
year it was $3,520, and then this year it's $747.
It must have been how the original pilot or the agreement was set up with them.
Okay.
Because we got all these, the new assessor, Terry's doing a good job of working with the county and getting all these numbers in a timely basis for me, and this is coming from them.
Okay. Maybe we can even do a citywide reassessment to get all the numbers up to date. Okay, those were, I'm just saying. Okay, that is all my questions on page 7.
Take your time, you're fine.
I have a question.
Yes.
Councilwoman Freeman, do you have any other questions? Excellent. Excellent.
While you're out there, I will say that we put a number of $200,000 in there for cannabis.
Oh, I'm so excited.
We haven't seen a penny yet from it, but
Of course, because everybody's high walking around.
I have a question.
No, it's-
Chuck, and the pilots, what is the total? This is really for people that might be watching. A lot of times people think that a pilot means that people aren't paying any taxes at all. And I'm just wondering, what do you think the total is that like the Newman development? I think there's that Two Rivers, I think. We're bringing in
$69,000.
$269,000 a year now. And at one time, when they first started, it was much smaller.
And it grows up over the years of the,
Right. But
Same one, because, you know,
what do you think that we take in now? And a lot of these would not be built with,
Literally.
they had not had pilot.
literally.
So I'm wondering how much.
Just that thing. Oh, no, sorry. I was caucusing with my fellow.
I
council.
see.
I don't know the exact answer to your
Yeah,
question,
okay.
Joe, but it's,
I'll have to add it up and when I give my comments next time, I'll throw it in. It's a lot of money.
yes.
Yeah, sure is. Other questions on page 7 through 14? Yes, Councilmember Freeman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. Okay, so there's, going through line by line, there are some that have what I would consider significant increases or decreases. For example, the comptroller's fees, that has almost doubled from last year's budget to this year's budget. What is causing that increase?
This comes through the county and this is the one that comes from the county, right? So
Okay,
when we do the water and sewer bills and the county pays us for them, we charge a fee for doing that, okay? And as you can see in 22, it was 124,000.
Yeah,
23, it's 126,000. That's the reason for budgeting 125.
okay,
Understand for a couple years, it was down because of COVID. And we weren't
I
able
see.
to roll over and shut off water and sewer, stuff of that nature.
that makes sense. Okay. The other one is other general department income miscellaneous. Can you tell us what that is? Like what might fall under there and why that's
I'm not
about
exact-
half of
I'm
what
not
it was?
exactly sure. It's
Okay.
probably little minor things that pop up that we don't have someplace else to put it properly.
Okay, so that might be random fees that people
Yeah.
are paying. Okay. The police fees also have gone up. What are we anticipating increasing?
On 22, they did 32,000. These are impound fees and when they get cars and stuff of that nature. So last 22, it was 32,000. Through the beginning of September, it was 18,000. So I arrived at a number of 30,000.
Okay. Um,
Understand, none of these are,
these are all
for the most
estimates.
part, outside the pilots, are factual that you can know you're gonna get. A lot of these are best guesses.
Understood, and thank you for that. I'm sorry, I have may I ask one more? I'm sorry. Uh, also, other public safety department income, that was $4,000 in 2022, then nothing in 2023, and now it's 20. Well,
41,589.
we encumbered 26 that, or encumbered, I guess,
I would say we received 26,000.
received 26 that, right.
Anything in this line is stuff that we see.
Right, encumbered was not the right word. I was just reading off the title of the line. So, I see we've received $26,000. So what is that line?
coming
Why was
from
there
Broome
nothing
County-
budgeted
coming
in 23 and now?
County Court,
Oh, sorry, what?
coming from city and Broome County Court.
I see. Okay, and also the parking meter fees, again, I know these are best guesses, but this is also less than 2023. It's $50,000 less.
From 23, that was through September, and usually we have slow months in parking fees when the students are out of town.
Mm-hmm.
And once November and December comes around, it's usually our big months when we do alternate sided street parking, and when snow fall and nobody obeys, and we get a lot of tickets and a lot of payments.
Oh, I see. Okay. Those are all my questions on page 8. Thank you.
We would be here for like 5 months if we did that. Call me when you're done, will you? Well, there's a schedule. We're supposed to be done by 5:20 according to the schedule, but we're not gonna make it. All right, let's keep moving, please, Councilwoman Friedman. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You have the floor.
Nobody else has any questions? Oh, God. Okay, so again, there's a few lines here. I know these are best guesses, but there are some that are notably different. The adult recreation fees, so far we've encumbered or I guess received $0 from this line. Why is that?
Because most of the adult programs start in the fall and winter, so we'll be getting them going forward.
Okay, so we're assuming about $3,000 by the end of the year? Okay. The other home and community services income, I noticed zoning compliance letters are new. What is a zoning compliance letter?
So do you remember what Julia talked about?
Right, Angela? Zoning compliance. Zoning compliance letter?
When Juliet was here,
Page,
she
uh,
talked about it. I
page
don't
9.
know off the top of my head what it was about.
Find it
I don't know that I remember.
under general services. No, I get the wrong one. Under other home and
Typically, I believe that what they're asking is there's probably a fee. If someone is selling a property and they can ask the zoning officer for a letter stating that it's being used for proper use under the zoning code. So you have it as a commercial property and then you'll ask Greg Buell to do research. Is this properly a commercial property? He gives you a letter. There's probably a fee associated with that.
I see. So the fee is for the labor required to assess zoning compliance.
For real
Gotcha.
estate transaction?
Okay. So it's not the letter itself, it's the,
No,
it's-
Councilman Freeman, it's to get
Yes.
reimbursed for what's closer to our true cost.
gotcha.
I
Okay,
do remember that. You're right.
right. Okay, under general services, the Broome County Senior Center Services, that line is new. Have we not received?
No, this is the one that we currently have an employee.
Right,
We're getting rid of that. We're hiring it on a person and Broome County is going to help reimburse for their salary. We'll be responsible for their benefits.
oh, so this is for, I see. This is for the portion that Broome County is reimbursing for the salary of that
Yes.
employee. Okay. And then, okay, under public safety services, there's an ARPA line in there. It says ARPA gun violence funds. Does that not have to be, why is that in there? But wouldn't that have to be in another line with like F, the ARPA designation?
That money is part of the $1 million that you approved for gun violence. The police department, they're gonna pay for one sergeant's salary out of that $1 million.
Okay, so
And-
that doesn't have to be a separate line then
No.
for that?
Because you've already approved those ARPA funds.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm looking on page 12. And there was. Okay, so under state aid, other public safety, there's the give grant non-fatal shootings.
There's a
Just
lot
to
of,
clarify, that's an incentive for when our police force doesn't kill anyone?
No,
That's what it sounds
it's an
like.
event for investigation of non-fatal shooting by a
Okay,
third party. Against. third
sorry,
party.
that was,
right? That sounds better.
yeah. I mean, that's why I'm clarifying. Doesn't it?
in there, if you look down to the last two items, the Intel Center captain salary, that's something that came down here. That's a big jump. That wasn't there last year.
Yeah. That's, yeah, Captain Bidwell. Salary. Okay, and then my last question for this page, under federal aid other, the ARPA line, it says that for this year, it's 1.1 million. Are we receiving more ARPA money?
No, this is how use of the ARPA money. We're gonna take it out of the 688 account where it's stored and put it into the fund after we spend these funds.
Okay, but then wouldn't that be an expense line, not a revenue?
There's expense lines here to cover it all. This is the revenue line that's offsetting those expense lines.
Oh, I. See. All right. Okay, I think those are all of my questions for these pages. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions on page 7 through 14? All right, Chuck, tell us about page 48, please.
Page 48 is contingency that you need to approve as amended. If you're not gonna do anything, last time we moved over 27,506.41 into line A 1990 55,000. Bringing that line up to 52,506.41. The total at the bottom is 72,506.41. If you're gonna keep all that money in contingency, all you gotta do is approve it as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve page 48 as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. So that concludes our budget hearing.
No,
Flip the page.
next page,
Oh,
Done.
7,000 more pages.
So
But I want to ask them on the record.
all right, so let's.
Wait,
so-
before we go further, though, I have my hand raised. Can we repeat the changes that were just voted and approved on page 48, please?
Yes, yes, Chuck, go ahead, please.
So the first line item, A 1990 55,000 contingency account. The amount that was originally proposed was 25,500. The new number is 52,000. 506.41. I think that's right. We over in the police department, there was 3 employees that we put in the wrong numbers. So the right number, excuse me, was 53,006.41. And the total at the bottom is going to be $73,006.41. No, there was a 5.
All right, so let's go back and we'll make a motion, please, to approve the pages, Bill.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve pages 6 through 14, 114 through 117, 206 as amended, and 207 as amended. 113? I said 104 through 117.
You did, yep. Can I have a second on that, please? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You're opposed to the motion, that's fine though. We'll move on. So you're opposed to the motion. So let's do real estate tax, please.
Okay, that's on page 5. We gotta open pages 2, 3, 4,
Open
and 5.
pages 2 through 5, Mr. Chairman,
Let's
please.
open 2 through 5, please.
Okay,
you,
page
Jim.
5 is the real estate tax. It just breaks out everything that we've done. The general fund expenses of 71.8, interfund transfers of 457,000. Total general fund of 72.3 million. Revenues from other than property taxes at 36.3. We're appropriating fund balance of $999,999. We're appropriating the remaining balance in the retiree reserve, retirement reserve of 2,773.65. We're appropriating the premium obligations of 223,767.32. And we're appropriating additional reserve for debt of 235,000. Leaving us a property tax of 34,505,358.01.
Questions on page 2 through 5, please. Councilmember Friedman?
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. So the appropriated fund balance is $999,999. Where can we find what is unappropriated in the fund balance?
You can't. It's in a
Can't.
balance sheet.
Okay, and I know you sent that. I think you sent an update on that recently, right?
Monthly. I think they send out the,
Okay. So that's something that we would have to request monthly.
it's every month it goes out automatically, right?
I don't think I.
That we don't send out the balance sheet. Okay.
I don't think so. Right.
The year-to-date budgets is what you send out every month. I think you have it set up so it goes automatically.
We have not seen it.
We're gonna go back.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Burns.
So, with the balancing this budget, we raised the property tax 1.7%. Is that
I
correct?
think it's 1.77 to be. exact.
1.77%. And we used out of the fund balance, was it 1.5 million? Something like that.
The technical number is about 1.25 million, 223,000 is what we're required to. That's not really in the fund balance.
Mhm,
Okay. It will show up there. Okay.
mhm.
When the accounting is, but we're obligated to
Okay,
pay it towards it.
how much money is 1.77%?
How much is it?
Yeah, how much money does that account for, you think?
Or do you have a report?
Rough estimate.
We have a report. We'll
Hmm?
we'll pull up a report. I don't know.
Right.
Actually, think.
Joe, the question was,
I was just wondering what I'm getting at. Eventually,
how much money was the 1.77% increase?
yeah, how much money that represents.
It's
And- and then-
1.17 million on a $100 million budget.
Well, no, because it's tax collection, which is which is different.
Right, right.
I'm just saying that, like, if the fund balance is our savings account and we're taking 1.25 million from the savings account, then the actual, that's taxpayers' money, so we're actually taking more, but than 1.77%, taking a little bit more of their money.
Councilman Burns, would you already get a answer to that question later, or you need it right
Yeah.
now?
It's probably about $600,000.
Okay. Okay,
And I say that because it used to be 1% was about 300,000.
okay, so that then 1.25 million out of the fund balance represents 2% of property. If the people are raising, if we're taking people, if you take money out of my savings account, and we're taking out of the taxpayer savings account, so we're really raising the taxes another at least percentage point if we're taking out of the fund balance.
Does everybody get it?
There's another way to look at it, Councilman. I don't disagree with what you're saying. The other way to look at it is that we've we've charged them in the past that we didn't use, and now we're giving that money back to them.
Okay,
Okay, there's two different ways to look at it.
that's good. I like that. And my other question is that, and you answered, I went to your office and had a meeting with you and you answered it. This is really for the people that are watching. When we had an independent auditor come in, and that independent auditor looked at our finances and said that in the fund balance, unappropriated funds, we had $5 million. The mayor, when he gave his budget address, he came up with a number of 17, that we have $17 million in fund balance, that it was so healthy. And I'm just find that, why does the independent auditor say there's 5 million? And then if we use 1.25 million out of that 5 million, how much is actually left in that budget, in the fund balance?
I think the answer to your question, and I don't have all the dollars and cents in front of me, but I believe at the end of last year, there was like $17 million in the fund balance.
Right.
Okay. Out of that 17 million, and once again, I don't have it in front of me, 12 million was set up in reserves. Okay, restricted accounts. 5 million was unrestricted. Out of that 12 million, because we appropriated 7 million in reserves to the parking garage, okay, that increased the restricted amount. Okay, when we spend that 7 million, I'm going to get 7 million ARPA funds. Okay, I haven't pulled that down yet. It's going to be a break even on the city's budget. Okay, and it's going to take 7 million from restricted to adding that 7 million to unrestricted. Okay. And that is following the New York State guidelines on each one of those steps of how you have to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So when we initially did this, it pulled down 7 million out of the unrestricted and put it in the restricted.
Mhm.
Once we spend it, which I've moved it out now. Okay. You will see that increase in the unrestricted.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Other question on page 2 through 5. Councilmember Riley.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so again, even though it's been moved from restricted to unrestricted, it still has been earmarked for the garage. So
Yes.
it's not saying that our fund balance in terms of unrestricted funds, our security savings is healthy. We're back to the 5 million again.
No, because
Oh,
once we
no.
spend it, okay. When you spend ARPA money, it has no effect on taxes.
Mhm.
Okay, so once we spend that 7 million, we're gonna get 7 million of ARPA money to offset it. It'll be a wash. Okay, so that fund balance doesn't change. It's still 17 million. The difference is 5 million that is that was the
Unrestricted.
12 million that was restricted
Mhm.
goes down to 5, And the 5 million that was unrestricted goes up to 12.
Okay. But we're still spending, but we're gonna get another
We're-
7
You're
million
getting the 7 million from the lost revenue.
from the lost
I
revenue.
haven't pulled that money down yet because we didn't spend it. I don't get any of that ARPA money to spend until we actually spend it.
Okay, until we
Mr.
spend the
Chairman.
fund balance.
So
Got
yes,
it.
the ARPA money is like
Well-
a,
Well, we don't really want to call it ARPA money anymore because we calculated it as lost revenue. So now it's just slush that we, no, I'm just
It's not,
kidding.
it's
No,
a
no, no,
fund
no.
balance.
it's
Well, the reason I say it is because remember, we talked on and on and on about the purpose of the ARPA funds and how we didn't agree with the calculations. Once the calculations changed, we can go back to 2021 when we talked about that at length. But the point is, you're saying that there's another 7 million coming that will eventually fund the fund balance. So it is at the healthy level we keep
Yeah.
quoting.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Scridgy?
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember as it relates to fund balance, right? So if we're going to use the analogy that Councilman Burns used, you know, with respect to a savings account, right? Increases in restricted funds doesn't mean that you don't have less savings, right? All that is compartmentalized and categorized, right? So if you individualize it, if you save $1,000 and you take that $1,000 and you say, out of this $1,000, I'm going to leave 250 uncategorized, 250 will go to my car, 250 will go to my taxes, and 250 will go to redo my kitchen. Just because you've categorized it doesn't mean you still don't have $1,000 in savings. Right? That's an important thing to know, right? Savings isn't restricted to only unrestricted general fund.
Thank you for that clarification, Councilmember Scaringi. I think we have that. I think what the public wants to know is then restricted pretty much means earmarked, right? So, I mean, just for general purposes, I know it's semantics, but when you want a healthy fund balance, you want to think of things that have not already been predetermined to be spent on projects. So that's the difference. That's why we're asking for those clarifications. So yes, you can have 1,000, but if $750 of your is going to something that you know is, you really only have $250 left to live on. And if something arises, some major traumatic event, you cannot spend the $750.
Just unrestricted.
Well, I'm just saying, again, I just wanted to clarify. I think we all have that basic understanding, but what our constituents wanted to know is how much is not already pre-planned for spending that has not been publicly discussed or put in this budget.
I get it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's move on to page 2.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move pages 2 through 5.
Second, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Let's check. Let's open page 220 to 228, please.
220 and 228 are all the fees. So all you need to do is approve them as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve pages 220 through 228 as amended.
Second. All opposed? I mean, all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I believe we're done with the budget.
I think you are, except for we will put together an ordinance with all the numbers in here for you to approve. You have to do it before the end of October.
Okay.
Okay,
next
I will. Lori and I will work on it this week and try to get it out to you by Friday, end of business on Friday.
Okay.
And if you have questions, you can call, and after your public hearing on the budget, hopefully you can vote for it. If you don't vote on it next Wednesday, then you need to schedule a special meeting, or everything goes as I think it falls back as it was presented.
All right, thank you. So, thank you to my colleagues, for this budget, the department heads. Nobody puts more work into this than Chuck and Lori, so thank you very much. I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second,
So moved.
for adjourn.
Can't you just keep it, let it rolling and then splice it later? Ah, okay, got it. Yeah. Yeah. Gonna vote.